Hi, Year 3. So today we're going to be reading chapter 9 and it's called Early Darkness. Right, said Marcia as we hurried back to my house. How exactly are we going to kidnap Norman? Chloroform, I said at once. It's a chemical. You sprinkle it on a hanky and hold it over the person's nose and it makes them go unconscious. And you've got some, have you? Of course not. You can't just go out and buy it like sweets or something. Why mention it then? Because if we did have it, it would be ideal. Let's stick to the real world, shall we? Growled Marcia. What we need to do is keep hold of Norman somewhere safe until it gets dark. That was when I got my second brilliant idea. We could make the dark come early, I said. What's that supposed to mean? Norman turns into an alien when it gets dark, right? Why should we wait until it's night time? Suppose we make it dark early. Put him in a dark place. Then he'd turn into an alien straight away. Marcia stopped and stared at me. That's very good, Rob. Why aren't you like this in school? That's two excellent ideas you've had in 10 minutes. A world record. I shouldn't wonder. Marcia beamed at me. We could get a cardboard box and just pop it over Norman's head. He's bound to struggle, I pointed out, and I had the vision of Norman's fists flying about like manic sledgehammers. I didn't want to lose all my teeth. All right, we use a blanket instead, and then we can pin down his arms at the same time. I wasn't so sure about this. Norman might have been a bit thin and weedy, but he was still bigger and older than us. He wasn't likely to let us put a blanket over his head without fighting back. I automatically covered my teeth with one hand. Suppose he hits us? We are trying to prevent space monsters taking over Earth, Rob. Somewhere along the line we might get injured. It's a risk we have to take. My stomach was churning up. I couldn't believe that Marcia could be so brave about the idea of being hurt. I mean, we were talking about teeth here, noses, real blood, maybe even death. On the other hand, I couldn't bear to tell her that my stomach had turned into scarified jelly, not when she was being all calm and heroic about it. We got to my house and found an old blanket. Our plan of action was simple. We would hide behind the hedge at the front of the house and wait until Norman walked past. Then we'd jump on him with the blanket. Simple ideas are always the best. By this time, Marcia was in stitches. You're enjoying this, aren't you? I grunted, rubbing my backside. It hurt. Shh, hissed Marcia. He's coming out. He's crossed the road. My heart immediately began banging like a hyperactive drum kit. My fingers were gripping the blanket so hard my knuckles had gone white. Time seemed to stand still. The distant footsteps came closer and then stopped. What's he doing? I panicked. Shh, just wait a second. It's okay, he's coming. Norman's footsteps drew closer and closer. Then through the tangle of twigs and leaves of the hedge we could see his shape as he began to pass by. Now! Cried Marcia. We leaped up and plunged out from behind the hedge, holding the stretched blanket in front of us. It worked like a dream. In a trice we had the blanket over his head and all three of us fell on the pavement, where we rolled about, pinning Norman's arms to his side. He was snarling dreadfully under the blanket and thrashing his head from side to side. Marcia clung to it as if it was a rogue rugby ball. She shouted at me, Is he changing yet? Is he beginning to change? That was when the dream had turned into a nightmare. I glanced at Norman's legs, and even though they were waggling about wildly in midair, I could see at once that his legs had definitely changed. Norman the alien was wearing ladies' shoes, black tights, and well, I daren't mention anything else. It wasn't my fault. You do see quite a lot when someone's waving their legs about as much as that. Here's a woman, I shouted at Marcia, who was still attempting touchdown with Norman's head. Marcia took one look and yelled, "We've got the wrong person, run for it!" We took off like rabbits and didn't stop until we reached the park. We threw ourselves panting onto the grass. At last we got our breath back. How did that happen? I asked. I don't know. Norman must have stopped and gone somewhere else, and then some other person came along. Do you think she saw us? Who was it anyway? I haven't a clue. I only saw her legs and I went pink. Not much else. Do you think it's safe to go back? We walked back to find a knot of chattering people gathered near our house and a police car. We watched and waited, but nobody went up my front path, so we guessed that nobody knew it had been us. We decided it was safe to get a bit closer. Someone tried to mug me, said a loud voice, but I fought them off. We peered through the crowd, and there was Mrs. Parslow, our next door neighbour but one, looking rather flustered and with her hair all messed up. I wonder how that happened. I gave him a black eye, Mrs. Parslow declared. Marcia and I looked at each other and shook our heads in disbelief. The line told. Anyhow, we decided that the blanket was not such a good idea after all. Besides, she's got a boyfriend. His name's Tony. This came as a bit of a shock, I can tell you. How can Marcia be so calm about it? Don't you mind? Why should I? I'd be really upset if my mum went out with a new boyfriend. Your mum and dad haven't split up though, have they? Not yet, I said darkly. Don't start that again, Rob. Look, my mum's not going to sit around on her own for the rest of her life. Anyhow, it's none of your business. I shut up. Marcia was quiet for a few moments and then she went on. It could be a bit risky at my house. My mum might come back, but I can't think of anywhere else. Just then my own mum came back and called up the stairs. Are you in, Rob? Upstairs, Marcia's here. Oh. It's such a small word, oh. You wouldn't think it could be said with such meaning. The way my mum said oh actually meant, well, I never. Upstairs with a girl, ho, ho, ho. I ignored it. Marcia and I agreed that we would meet at her place the following afternoon and put Plan 2 into action. Hello, Marcia, Mum said cheerfully as I saw Marcia to the front door. You two seem to be very good friends these days. Now Mum's face had a ho-ho-ho smile on it. Marcia nodded seriously. Yes, we thought we'd get married tomorrow. See you, Rob. You should have seen Mum's face. She was left speechless. Her jaw had almost fallen off. I had to hand it to Marcia. Talk about sharp. I kept spilling my food at lunch. I was laughing so much. It wasn't that funny, Rob, Mum said crossly, but it was.